Well, hopefully this isn't the video that takes my channel down. Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and Dax Shepard got into a bit of an argument on his podcast with Jonathan Van Ness, I don't know, some trans individual from the Netflix show Queer Eye. You can bet your boy Leon not particularly aware of that particular show, but yes, he was confronted on his podcast about certain, trans dog whistles and whatnot, and it's of course made the news with people having pretty split opinions, and I didn't want to just go over the article and give my thoughts on the article. No, you boy, I do a bit more research than that. I want to come in with the receipts, so I actually kicked back and I listened to the podcast before recording this, and let me tell you, you guys owe me, so let's get into it. Jonathan Van Ness breaks down in tears on Dax Shepard's podcast after tense back and forth. I'm scared of the vitriol that trans people face. And so, yeah, this is the individual, because it doesn't have a visual representation if you're listening to it on Spotify. I looked. It's not on YouTube. It seems to be a Spotify, or maybe, it's on iTunes or whatnot. Point is, it's not like the Joe Rogan experience or whatnot. There's no visual component to it. So this is who Dax Shepard was arguing with, and I'm going to lay it out front. I don't like Dax Shepard. I've never liked Dax Shepard. I love the movie When in Rome. I love the movie Idiocracy, but I've always found Dax Shepard to be an incredibly tired, boring, annoying actor that can only play the dumb guy. That being said, it was kind of an interesting listen despite the absolute cringe. In the most recent episode of Dax Shepard's podcast, Armchair Expert, Jonathan Van Ness broke down in tears while defending the rights of transgender kids. Well, full stop, there's no such thing, as we all know. There are kids that, might end up being gay or might end up being trans as an adult or whatnot, but there's no such thing as transgender kids. There's kids with gender dysphoria, there's kids with, something wrong with the brain that makes them think there's something they're not in the real world. Shepard and Van Ness engaged in a lighthearted conversation about a range of topics before they began talking about the New York Times. When Van Ness said the publication should not be considered left-leaning, Shepard responded with, "It absolutely is." Now, for those of you guys that don't know, because you don't listen to crap like this, Dax Shepard, very liberal, super liberal dude, and he goes on to say that multiple times in the debate. He's also relatively fair. I mean, I disagree with his points, 100 times out of 100 in this episode, but he is relatively fair to people on the right and to the conservatives in most instances in this debate. And yeah, he's right. The New York Times is absolutely left-leaning. Van Ness then said the publication shares anti-trans content. That's it. That's enough for this dude. The fact that it shares anti-trans content is enough to be like, oh no, well, it's not left-leaning at all. What does it feel about Democrats and liberals? What does it feel about high taxes? What does it feel about billionaires? What does it feel about any other climate change? What about all these other left-leaning topics? But if you disagree on one thing, if you disagree on the single thing about LGBTQ, HABC, LMNOP rights, whatnot, if you disagree with that, you're not left-leaning. That is, when we say the left eat their own, this is what we mean. Although, to be fair, the anti-woke right are clearly eating their own as well. Look at what's going on with Starfield. But that's, anyway, after the two went back and forth on the topic, Shepard said, some people are very uncomfortable about teenagers transitioning. They're challenging that. How do we know that person's not going to change their mind? Is that not a relatively fair thing to ask, especially if you're going to start injecting the kids with hormones and cutting off their dicks and whatnot? I do think it's a very, fair argument to have. Just some questions before you do some irreversible shit to a child's body. But, that's considered transphobic to Van Ness. Even Dax recognizes this despite it being a conservative talking point. To even question it makes you an enemy. I don't think that's the way forward, Shepard continued before prompting Van Ness to offer a rebuttal. Van Ness said it felt like they were talking to their dad. Hearing that in the actual podcast was so damn cringy. He's like, I respect you. I feel like I'm talking to my dad right now. Or it was something like that. When you hear this dude's voice, think of the most stereotypically, if you go watch a 90s movie, go watch a 90s movie that makes fun of a gay person. Trust me, there's a million of them. You should be able to find one pretty easy. And they go with the most flamboyant, over-the-top stereotype, oh my god. That's how this dude spoke. It was so, it must have been some cheese, because, bro, it was grating. They went on to discuss how transgender athletes do not have the competitive advantage that some, like J.K. Rowling, who Van Ness mentions, claim they do. Yes, they do. 9 times out of 10, if not all 10 out of 10 times, trannies got the advantage when you're a dude who switched to a chick and you're competing with chicks. Yeah, trannies have the advantage 9 times out of 10. Now, obviously, that don't mean that, they always have the advantage. If I got into the ring with Ronda Rousey or Gina Carano, I'm sure either of those women would beat my ass. But you know what? Leon likes it that way. My weird stuff aside, yes, they do have the advantage. This guy is talking with, again, traditional liberal viewpoints that are only, worthy of his side of the aisle. The stuff that only props up the trans individuals, only props up the LGBTQIA community. No, we're the left. We're the pro pro-science party. Well, really, then how'd you come to these sort of conclusions on the LGBT stuff? How'd you come to these sort of conclusions on COVID? But yeah, you're the pro-science party. Shepard responded by asking whether the inclusion of transgender athletes is safe or fair for cis women in sports. The two then discussed the topic for over 20 minutes. Van Ness said that as a non-binary person, it is disappointing when people claim to be fighting for women while excluding trans children from playing sports. Well, once again, no such thing as a trans child. I'm not calling you a transphobe. You cannot be transphobic and still have thoughts that espouse trans misogyny and espouse transphobic ideologies or beliefs and not be transphobic. How does that, I mean, I appreciate this dude for saying it because that's more than the vast majority of others would say, but how does that work? I'm not calling you a transphobe. You cannot be transphobic and still have thoughts that espouse trans misogyny, which is not even a thing, and espouse transphobic ideologies or beliefs and not be transphobic. Well, that's contradictory to everything I've heard your side tell me the last, 5, 6, 10 years, however long I've been saying this crap. Like, I thought that if you even held one of those beliefs, that makes you transphobic. In fact, Dax Shepard says something very similar in the podcast. I don't know if the article covers it, but he says, what bothers me is that if you've got 10 points and I agree with 9 of them, but I even have questions about the 10th, that immediately makes me the enemy. Well, hold on right there. Dax Shepard, he got out the gate. He hit the nail on the head. That is an absolute problem with the modern left. If you agree with 9 of the 10 things that a lefty is proposing, but disagree with the 10th, bro, you're excised. You may as well go vote for Donald Trump and buy an I'm with Hitler t-shirt. Like, yeah, he hit the nail on the head, but of course he gets pushback on that. Van Ness said they were hoping to come on Shepard's show. Oh my god, Van Ness said he was hoping to come on Shepard's show to chat about his podcast, to which Shepard responded that he did not intend to start a debate and that praised Van Ness for being an activist. As he started to break down in tears, you're getting me on this, Variety, Van Ness said that he could just cry, and he does cry, and it is... He goes on, it's so exhausting to talk about this all the time. It's just, I have to be the bastion of, talking about this, fighting for children to be able to play sports, and it's exhausting. And he really is crying, and let me tell you, this might actually be a woman born in a man's body, because ain't no man supposed to break down like a little bitch like Van Ness did here. So this might be the first true case of a legitimate trans that I've actually seen. Like, this is for sure a chick in a dude's body with the way he ended up blubbering on this damn show, let me tell you. Because of how exhausted they were from having to fight for little kids who just wanted to be included. I wish that people were as passionate about little kids being able to be included or grow up as they were about fictitious women's fairness in sports. Let me tell you what I'm passionate about, Johnny boy. I'm passionate about making sure kids don't off themselves. You got a 50-50 chance of killing yourself if you're a tranny. Like that's a pretty, that's a pretty high number. It's not a coin that I want to flip. So anything that can negate that, I'm A-okay with. Like, obviously, we're going to use some of the little, and we're going to lose some of the little Timmies and Susies along the way, but if we can mitigate it even a little bit, knock that number down to like a 49%, 30%, whatever a good number is, look, I think it's fair to look into when the vast majority of boys that think they're girls turn out to just be homos at the end of the day, once they've actually grown up and experienced puberty. I think that's fair to question. You're not some incredible person because you're out here trying to fight for children's rights to be included. That's not what's happening. You're talking about fictitious women's fairness. I would say that the woman that got her skull busted in the UFC, I can't remember the UFC dude's name, basically the dude who was pretending to be a chick, cosplaying as a woman, fracturing an actual woman's skull in a UFC match. Yeah, I'd say it's not about fictitious fairness in women's sports. There's a reason the Leah Thomas stuff broke the news cycle when it happened. It's because it's not fictitious. Now, you might say that it's overblown, that there's too many people talking about it, that it's become some sort of conservative boogeyman dog whistle, which is what, this individual does say in the in the podcast, and there might be some element of truth to that. There are a lot of individuals talking about it because it gets them clicks, it gets them, I'm no different. I'm doing it right now because I know that you guys have clicked on this, but that doesn't make it any less true. So I don't really know where you want to go with that, Johnny. Van Ness went on to say, you can have racist beliefs and not know you're racist, just like you can have transphobic beliefs and not realize you have transphobic beliefs. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. I mean, Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Just because you have transphobic beliefs doesn't make you a bad person. But then again, I think the person's beliefs don't make them a bad person. I think the actions speak louder than words. Like, I don't know, this to me just is a nothing burger of a sentence, so I can only answer it with another nothing burger of a sentence. What does this even mean? Like, I don't know. Van Ness spoke a lot in useless platitudes, and, he gets on to Dax Shepard for, you're parroting conservative talking points, and it makes me feel like my dad. He used the word parroting, but all Van Ness does is parrot talking points from his side of things. So, I mean, I don't know. What do you want? Like, is it okay to parrot as long as you're parroting the right, I guess in this case, the left? I say, is it okay? Of course it's okay. That's obviously what they want. I don't know why I even questioned it. Shepard told Van Ness that he was sure they were disappointed in him, and it was so funny. Like, it was so sad to hear like Dax Shepard was trying so hard. Like, oh no, I gotta stay on the tranny's good side. I could get canceled. Like, you knew he was cognizant of the fact that he might get canceled. She's like, I'm sure you're disappointed in me, and I'm not disappointed in you. Like, oh, it was hilarious. Like, I'm not recommending you guys listen to this because, like the article says, it's barely over 20 minutes. It felt like a goddamn hour. But if you do want some hilarity, it does offer enough to maybe justify the listen. So, adding they still struggle with their gender expression, Van Ness said, I'm scared of the vitriol that trans people face every day. Shepard and his co-host Monica Padman told Van Ness they admired their braveness and apologized again before changing topics. Yeah, it was so stunning and brave. They admire how stunning and brave it is for this dude to put on a dress despite the fact that he keeps his facial hair and still talks like a dude, just the gayest dude you've ever heard. Oh yeah, it takes a lot of bravery to go out there and wear a dress. Like your boy Leon, when I come on Saturday Night Hypnosis and I'm in makeup and a tube top, that's so much braver than any of you guys watching this video. Like, I don't know if I got any veterans that watch my videos, but if I do, I want you guys to know, nothing you guys did in Vietnam or the Middle East, none of that is near as brave as when your boy goes on Saturday Night Hypnosis in a tube top. From there, the article just goes on to talk about some more of Van Ness's activism, which I'll be honest, I don't think any of us care about, so I'm not going to bother finishing the article, but it was completely bizarre to hear. Like, you had somebody, a very renowned leftist, Dax Shepard is quite the renowned leftist, and you have him just asking general questions, just saying, hey, some people are afraid of teenagers transitioning for reason XYZ. He talks about a high suicide rate, and yeah, he blows it out the water. Now, again, he still does it from a very left-leaning point of view, which, your boy, as a centrist here, wasn't a fan of, but I can't knock him questioning it, but he was getting excised just for questioning it. You wonder why, the liberals, the left, they all fall in line with each other and just blindly acknowledge this ideology. Do you know how many of them probably don't want to, but they're so damn terrified of what's going to happen? Because, yeah, I'm sure you're going to see, article after article, if you haven't already, because I'm recording this 2 days in advance. So by the time you're seeing this, this might be old news. There might already be article after article after article calling Dax Shepard a conservative, an alt-right fearmonger, whatever. He might be canceled, might not be allowed to be on the left anymore. But he could be the next Russell Brand by the time you see this, for all I know, because I don't know how much this story's going to do, but I found it interesting, and I had to share it with you guys, and I definitely want to get your thoughts, so let me know in the comments down below, or let me know on X, where you can find me at Bolt the Word, and please do subscribe. I am a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day, and while this particular topic wasn't exactly nerdy, it's because I obviously love to cover stuff with that cultural and political flair, because that has infested nerd culture for over a decade now, and that definitely merits it being talked about. But until then, you can check out some of my other nerdy videos and my back catalog here, whether it be about Magic the Gathering, anime, movies, you name it, it's all here in the nerdosphere. And this has been Words of Paradise.